I transmigrated into a story about a real and fake heiress. I obtained a golden finger that allows any plot to repeat 1,000 times. In the original story, Wendy deliberately fell down the stairs, crying pitifully, successfully making the real heiress despised by everyone, me, falling headfirst, repeating 1,000 times. Wendy's body immediately became unresponsive, crashing violently toward the ground. I took the opportunity to stuff a wooden fish into her. Bang 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 bang, me, sis, you're really hammering away. So there's a reason our family's finances are so good. Dad went from shocked to confused, then from confused back to shocked. Wendy, what on earth are you doing? I transmigrated into a cliché story about a real and fake heiress. On the first day of the family reunion, the fake heiress, Wendy, leaned close to my ear, said viciously, Susan, don't think that just because Mom and Dad have acknowledged you, you can forget your place. I've been with the Lincoln family for 18 years, and everything here belongs only to me. After speaking, she pretended to be warm and friendly, pulled my luggage upstairs. Just as I was about to lend a hand, I leaned back. From a step over a meter high, he went straight down. With a thud, his forehead hit the ground. In the hall, Mom covered her mouth tightly, screaming in silence. Dad heard the sound. He immediately dropped the overseas call and rushed out. The 18 servants in the house received urgent orders. Everyone rushed to the main hall, and Wendy's upside-down body was twisting in a bizarre manner. It hurts. Someone save me, sob sob. It hurts so much. On that pitiful face, tears fell like raindrops from pear blossoms. Mother's voice trembled with nervousness. Baby, are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? Moving recklessly would surely break the neck. Father yelled at the flustered servants. A bunch of useless fools. Stop right now. Call the doctor. The house instantly fell into chaos. While everyone was in a frenzy over the fake heiress's fall, Wendy, however, hid behind the crowd. She smiled slyly. The original text read, in a little while, everyone would discover that the true heiress, Susan, was the one who had harmed Wendy. Her mother stared at her as if she were an enemy, and her father flew into a rage, shouting, if you dare intentionally hurt Wendy, get out of this house immediately. Wendy achieved her goal. While the real heiress's eyes were swollen like peaches, too aggrieved to speak for a long time, as the plot unfolded, my vision went dark. Why are there so many female leads who refuse to speak up? If the doctor had arrived half an hour later, Wendy's wound is about to heal. Who are you trying to bully? I let out a cold laugh into the air, faking a fall, Then let Wendy hit her forehead on the ground and repeat it 1,000 times for me first. The plot takes effect. Wendy's 2 feet still resting on the steps, seemed to be stuck by something, suddenly became unresponsive. The body was like a wound-up compass. Using the foot as a pivot point, it instantly straightened into a 90-degree right angle, stiffly suspended in mid-air. A few seconds later, the suspense came to an end. Wendy's forehead slammed downward. With a thud, the wooden floor made a dull sound. By the time Mom realized what was happening, she was already so frightened that her voice cracked. Ah. My baby, what's wrong with you? Dad was also getting anxious. He frowned and shouted, the doctor will be here soon. My dear daughter, just hold on a little longer. Hold on, don't hurt yourself. If it hurts, just scream. But Wendy seemed to be possessed. She had no reaction to anything around her. Only her body uncontrollably straightened up again. The next second, in the stunned shock of everyone, once again, it came crashing down heavily. The entire venue fell silent, until the 3rd time. The 4th time, the 5th time, each time with increasing force, and each time hitting louder. Mom broke down, covering face and screaming, someone come quickly, someone stop her, this child must be possessed by evil spirits. Dad also became anxious, didn't care about that much at all. He grabbed Wendy's body and pulled with all his might, but her feet seemed to be stuck to something. No matter how hard he tried, it was useless. Wendy, stop it right now. In a panic, Dad pressed down on the fake daughter's shoulders, trying to stop her from such a crazy act. But with just that little bit of strength, how could he possibly withstand my chosen golden finger? It didn't last more than a few seconds. Dad was sent flying by Wendy with a powerful blow. He was directly thrown out. Honey, are you okay? Mom, with tears in her eyes, helped Dad up, supporting his 50-year-old aching back. Shivering with heartache, the servants rushed up to help. 7 or 8 people worked together to hold Wendy down. but unexpectedly, Wendy's core strength was almost comparable to the powerful arm of an excavator, and so, in a corner of Lincoln's home, the world's fifth great miracle appeared. Everyone was hanging on Wendy. It was like buying a hanging ticket in India. Wendy, up, thump, servant, up, down, our relationship is like a roller coaster. Goodness, so the system even added background music. Even someone like me, who hasn't seen much of the world, was stunned. When the plot repeated for the 250th time, everyone was overwhelmed by the fake daughter's immense power. No one dared to get close. The wooden floor was smashed into a dent. Wendy's face was flushed, her eyes vacant. Her forehead was swollen larger than the god of longevities. No matter how many times her mother called, there was no response at all. Still repeating the instructions over and over again, Mom collapsed into Dad's arms. She's crying so hard she can barely catch her breath. Honey, Wendy must be possessed by evil spirits. Hurry, quickly call the Taoist priest to save our child. Father was also encountering such a strange event for the first time. He hesitated for a long time before finally nodding in agreement. I picked up the wooden fish from the Buddhist shrine. He stepped forward and pretended to be profound as he comforted her. Mom, we can't wait any longer, at this rate. I'm afraid my sister has already knocked herself silly. We happen to have an evil warding artifact at home. If my sister uses it to pray for blessings and dispel misfortune, it will surely drive away the unclean spirits. So, I took the opportunity to hand over the hard sandalwood prayer beads. A crisp sound immediately echoed through the hall. Bang 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 bang. The rhythm was distinct, each sound striking the ear. Wendy's head instantly turned into a human-shaped mallet, moving so fast it leaves after images. This fake young lady in the original work who slacks off no matter what she does, under the control of the golden finger. Her movements are so precise that winning 10 consecutive gymnastics championships wouldn't be an overstatement. I showed a delighted expression. Sister really puts in effort in everything she does, so that's why our family has such good financial luck. Bang 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 bang. Just like that, the wooden fish was knocked from dawn until dusk. When the plot was executed for the 700th time, the ambulance also circled the roundabout outside the villa area 700 times. Dad looked at Wendy's face, blurred into a mosaic, the faint trace of anticipation that was once in his eyes, and finally, completely became lost. Mother could no longer cry, slumped weakly on the sofa. The servants huddled in the corner, trembling. Everyone only felt a weary numbness. The original text said, to avoid hurting herself, Wendy deliberately fell on the wooden floor, which wasn't very hard, although there wasn't even a visible wound on her forehead. It made her parents cancel their overseas orders and take time off to accompany her. However, falling once wasn't a big deal. Falling down 10 times and still being able to rise again. But then, by chance, I encountered this golden touch 1,000 times over. Things just became a little bit amazing. Wendy at this moment, covered in blood and sweat, disheveled and grimy, completely unrecognizable as human. It has long been said that dripping water can wear through stone. This time it's enough to pierce through the earth. I am completely convinced. When the plot reached the 900th time, it took a full 5 years to smuggle in the sandalwood flooring from Southeast Asia. Got 2 glaring big holes. Mom fainted as soon as she saw it. This made me unable to tell whether it was because of the floor or because of the person. Dad, on the other hand, was completely focused on seeking immortality and enlightenment, holding Buddhist beads in the left hand, worshipping Taoist deities with the right hand, while chanting Amen to the Christian God, deities from heaven and earth, both domestic and foreign. Play it safe and offend no one. No wonder a perfectly fine daughter suddenly becomes like this. Anyone in that situation would go crazy. When the plot reaches the 1000th time, Wendy was like a bag of crumbling cement. She crashed heavily to the ground, unconscious. The ambulance rushed through the gate right on time. By then, the Lincoln family had gone mad, collapsed, become infatuated, and turned foolish. The medical staff didn't know which one to save first. I gleefully packed them all into the ambulance. Wendy was barely breathing. With her last ounce of strength, she still managed to raise the hand that wanted to frame the real heiress. The emergency nurse grabbed me and inserted a thick, long needle. Wendy's anxious heart could finally rest in peace. This scene, I couldn't help but exclaim, unbelievable. After a thorough checkup, Mom was admitted to a high-end ward for rest and recovery. Wendy was wrapped in bandages from head to toe, unable to move, only revealing 2 resentful big eyes. staring at the ceiling with a face full of resentment. Dad was somewhat helpless, afraid that this only child, who had been raised in luxury for 18 years, had damaged his brain. Susan, I didn't expect you to witness such an embarrassing scene on your first day back. Dad turned around. His expression toward me was quite cold. Take this money and go get something to eat nearby. Out of politeness, Dad took from the thick stack of bills, pulled out a few loose bills from the top, and casually tossed them on the table. He simply didn't want to bother with any extra matters. The original text said, in the Lincoln family, Wendy is the apple of her parents' eyes. While the true heiress is ultimately treated as an outsider, the parents give all their love to the fake heiress, sometimes treating their own biological daughter worse than a servant. Wendy even deliberately glanced over here. Relying on her father's blatant favoritism and affection, she sneered at me with sarcasm. That expression is just asking for a beating. In that case, I don't even want to pretend with you all anymore. Please repeat the action of Father Lin giving money 1,000 times. The plot immediately takes effect. The hand that Dad had just put into the leather bag was suddenly pulled out. He raised the same thick stack of bills he had just held. He began uncontrollably throwing out one bill after another. Before long, the table was piled high with large denomination bills of Chairman Mao, and what's floating in the sky, falling on the ground. Dad's wrist seems to have a motor installed. It's even crazier than an ATM at the bank. Swish, 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 swish. The action of scattering money just won't stop. I'm so thrilled. Ah, Dad, are you crazy? Why did you give away so much money? After realizing something was wrong, Wendy stiffened her neck and immediately sounded the alarm. Stop, stop, Dad. However, before the plot is executed, even the King of Heaven himself couldn't stop it. A passing nurse saw Dad frantically scattering money. Everyone stopped what they were doing and immediately ran over to pick up the money together. When they found out that I was the long-lost true heiress of the Lincoln family mentioned in the news, their envy was simply beyond words. This infuriated Wendy, who was unable to move. Her blood pressure even skyrocketed to 260, off the charts. Crying and shouting, "That's my money, mine, stop it, Daddy, don't you love Wendy anymore, wah wah." However, everyone was caught up in the excitement of scattering the money. No one paid her any attention at all. After the 1,000th banknote flew out, Dad collapsed directly. His brain was oxygen deprived, and his wrists had lost all sensation. The nurse's eyes turned red from picking up the money. He kept exclaiming in awe at such an extravagant welcome gift. Wendy was so jealous she could practically breathe fire. She threw a wild tantrum in the hospital room. Dad, if you're going to be this biased, why don't you just give all the family money to my sister? Wendy is not worthy. Wendy will leave with nothing. From now on just pretend you never had a daughter like me. Oh ho, how come this drama keeps coming to me one after another? I stood behind the crowd and sneered coldly. In that case, just repeat what Wendy just said, 1,000 times. Dad frowned deeply. He hadn't fully recovered from what had just happened. Wendy, lying on the hospital bed, suddenly raised her voice even louder and added another sentence. Wendy isn't worthy. Wendy will leave with nothing, and from now on, just act as if you never had a daughter like me. Traditionally speaking, although the fake daughter has a princess-like temper, in front of others, she is definitely perceptive and knows how to treat people differently based on their status. She would not do anything that would damage the Lincoln family's reputation, especially in front of so many unfamiliar nurses. Dad's temples throbbed. The tone was clearly extremely displeased. Wendy, how could you say such a thing? How I usually teach you, you must never vent your anger here. In the eyes of the wealthy families, external reputation is greater than everything. Everyone is merely a carefully placed pawn in their positions. Losing face is more serious than losing his life. But the system doesn't care about any of this. It directly gave the fake heiress a 50,000 hertz voice. Wendy is not worthy. Wendy will leave with nothing. From now on just pretend you never had a daughter like me. Dad was stunned. Shut up, you're embarrassing the Lincoln family. Wendy is the one who's not worthy. Wendy will leave with nothing. From now on just pretend you don't have a daughter like me. The nurse was also stunned. They never expected the poised and elegant young lady from the newspaper to be so rebellious at heart. Wendy is not worthy. Wendy will leave with nothing. From now on just pretend you never had a daughter like me. The voice of the fake daughter grew louder each time. It was as loud as a hallway broadcast. The entire hospital could hear it. Father could no longer maintain his composure. For the first time, I felt the urge to hit someone. Wendy, shut up right now. Do you hear me? But who would have thought that my cheat system would turn out to be so stubborn? No matter what tricks I try, nothing works. Wendy, the warrior, with her mouth wide open, her jaw nearly dislocated, still enunciating clearly and repeating over and over, afraid others might not hear clearly, until the elderly man sitting downstairs. Everyone remembered a woman named Wendy, who was about to leave with nothing. Only then did everyone understand. The fake daughter didn't break her bones, but she injured her brain. Mother heard the news in the neighboring hospital area. She didn't care about anything else. I rushed over in a panic, holding my dad's hand. I gasped for breath as I spoke. Honey, what on earth happened to Wendy? How did a perfectly fine child end up like this? How am I supposed to go on living like this? Could it be a misdiagnosis at the hospital? Let's have her checked again. Tell the doctors to examine her more carefully. Father's expression gradually darkened. There are too many people and too many opinions here. If something else is suddenly discovered and gets out, where would the Lincoln family's reputation be left? Transfer to another hospital immediately. This is so embarrassing. Dad was on the phone arranging for a driver, while trying to cover Wendy's mouth. Little did he know. The fake heiress had an astonishing biting force. Not only did it bite down hard, the repeated words still clearly slipped through the teeth. Wow, I never expected this golden finger to also be a workhorse frantically chasing KPIs. Dad was bitten until his flesh was torn and mangled. Mother fainted again at the sight of blood. The ward was in chaos. The nurse saw that even her own father could be bitten to the point of agony. She thought Wendy was some kind of ferocious beast, scared. He ran while shouting in the hallway, "A madman is killing people. A madman is killing people." The hospital was in chaos. The hospital director personally issued an order to expel him. He was followed by 2 riot police officers. She scolded her father for lacking any sense of social responsibility as an entrepreneur. People with mental illnesses should be sent to mental hospitals. How can they be allowed to roam freely in society and harm others? Father was criticized by the crowd until his face turned red with embarrassment. All the authority of a big boss was gone. He kept bowing his head and saying, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." Not long after, Wendy was tied up by the special police and carried out of the ward. I supported my weak mother as we followed behind the others. She giggled like a big goose. Fortunately, the Lincoln family had their own ambulance. It drove directly to the private hospital in the suburbs. In the original plot, Wendy, fearing that her family inheritance rights were unstable, deliberately spread rumors that Susan had congenital schizophrenia and was unable to maintain a normal life. Under the pressure of public opinion, her father had no choice but to confine her in a hospital on a remote island. As it turned out by chance, the most remarkable aspect of this hospital was precisely its psychiatric department. In the ambulance, Wendy has finally finished reciting the sutra 1,000 times. She blinked her empty eyes, seeing the unfamiliar surroundings. She once again put on a fragile and pitiable innocent expression. "Daddy, where are we going? Wendy is so scared. Wendy wants mommy and daddy to stay with me." Woo woo woo. As usual, how could mom and dad bear to let their precious daughter suffer like this? If they saw even a single tear fall from Wendy's eyes, their hearts would surely ache unbearably. After all, Lincoln is the future sole heir. Every part of their body is precious, however. Now, Wendy's vocal cords are torn. Although she still had the delicate appearance of an innocent flower, her voice was hoarse and grating. The pitiful atmosphere was not conveyed in the slightest. Wendy heard the change in her own voice. Suddenly, she had a panic attack and began screaming uncontrollably. "Ah, my throat. How did it become like this? Someone must have harmed me. Kill him. I want to kill him myself." Mom and Dad saw their daughter, who had changed so drastically. Her temper was so violent that she couldn't even control it. I also thought of the series of strange events that happened today. Although I was still trying to appear calm on the surface, I was actually terrified inside. Arrived at the hospital, Dad rushed into the clinic almost immediately, afraid that even a second's delay might worsen the fake heiress into a cerebral palsy patient. Wendy was completely unaware of what had just happened. Still confused and aggrieved, she pleaded pitifully. "We already had the checkup at the hospital. Why do we have to do it all over again?" Wendy is scared and doesn't want to go inside the pitch-black machine. But this time, Dad didn't fall for the fake rich girl's innocent act. His face was resolute, clearly expressing a "get in there" look. Wendy was slowly pushed into the scanning machine, crying, then slowly pushed out. I muttered quietly to the air. Now, repeat the scanning motion of the machine 1,000 times. System, you're so bad, hee hee hee. Through a layer of glass, Dad was nervously watching the results in the operating room. After the screen displayed brain images from different angles, the instrument did not stop. Wendy was pushed in again. The doctor on duty immediately broke out in a cold sweat. He pressed the end button several times in a row. There is no effect at all. A few minutes later, Dad felt something was wrong. My daughter has been in there for so long. Isn't it over yet? The doctor's voice trembled. His hands began to frantically slap the control panel. Mr. Lin, this machine seems to be malfunctioning. No matter what I do, it won't stop. Wendy started crying loudly inside the sealed scanning chamber. Ah, let me out. Save me, save me. Interestingly, in one day, I used the cheat code 4 times. The system seems to be getting impatient, focused solely on completing the task as quickly as possible. The scanner also began accelerating from its normal frequency to 100 times per second. By the time everyone rushed in, the machine had already blurred into a residual image. At this speed, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say we're rushing to Mars. Ah, Wendy, how did it come to this? Mother covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Someone, please, save my daughter. Dad had a quick wit in an emergency and pulled the power switch. The entire imaging room was pitch black, yet the scanner continued to transmit frantically and eerily. Zzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzz. I don't know where the buzzing sound came from. It was absolutely terrifying. This has completely gone beyond what science can explain. Everyone was stunned. A few intern doctors thought they had seen a ghost, crouched in the corner, trembling with fear. Only I secretly hide my joy. It turns out this diligent golden finger can even generate its own power for love. The system suddenly blurted out, working for passion. Get a clue? This overworked drone just wants to clock out early. Me, shocked face. JPG. Dad's face turned ashen as he grabbed the chief physician by the collar. What on earth is going on? What kind of shoddy equipment is this hospital using? The chief physician's legs went weak, his voice trembling with tears. Mr. Lin, this machine was just donated by Lincoln Corp. Inside the scanning chamber, Wendy's body was being shuttled back and forth by the high-speed operating instrument. Her hair stood on end from static electricity, making her look like a madwoman. Such a grand scene. And he even used his own daughter as an experiment. It makes one can't help but doubt. This high-tech product is actually a secret lunar exploration weapon disguised as a medical facility. And my father, Mr. Lin, is the agent who infiltrated Musk's team to conduct experiments. Because it was too fast, this damn girl got carsick, accompanied by continuous retching sounds. The scene was quite pungent for a while. When the instrument stopped, it had heated up due to friction. Wendy looked like a charred, shriveled monkey, withered as if struck by lightning. Her eyes rolled back, consciousness fading. She heard someone approaching, staring with wide, white eyes. She wondered if she had traveled through time. Has the Emperor come to share the bed? Seeing this scene, the father, who had initially wanted to keep trying to save the situation, finally, the heart is completely dead. However, the progress bar of the entire book continues. The system won't let Wendy go offline so easily. To advance the plot, when I got home, Dad received a message from the Smith family. Mom looked worried. Honey, the Smiths heard that Wendy is sick and want to stop by the hospital to see her tomorrow. But what if Wendy's current behavior ruins the marriage arrangement? Father paced back and forth, unsure of what to do. In the original plot, the Smith family's influence was even greater than the Lincoln family's, to increase their ability to withstand risks. Although Father intended to arrange a marriage alliance between Wendy and the Smith family's eldest son, Lucas, Mrs. Smith never gave her consent to their union. Clearly, Wendy is nothing but a delicate flower who only knows how to toy with men. She happened to run into Mrs. Smith, a seasoned and formidable woman who had dealt with countless manipulative women. If she accidentally lost her composure in front of the Smith family again, it wouldn't just be a matter of losing face. She would lose the protection of the Smith family, her powerful backing. Lincoln's path to wealth was not entirely clean. It was truly a case of kicking a man when he's down. Just when Father was at his wit's end, I slowly walked downstairs wearing the princess dress prepared by the butler. Dad's eyes suddenly lit up. He grabbed my hand and examined it carefully. Susan, would you like to dress up beautifully tomorrow and come with Mom to meet the new guests? I understood. Dad was well aware that his main account was already beyond repair. I'm eager to try switching to a smaller size. In other words, Wendy's current state is no longer presentable. It's better to completely give up on this idea, let the real heiress interact more with the Smith family, seize another opportunity to foster a future marriage. The Lincoln family's influence would then be secure. Father kept fiddling with his Bodhi seed bracelet, chanting, Amitabha, before the Buddha, yet he wore his cunning and calculation plainly on his face. Mom tossed several sets of expensive jewelry directly at me. She even called in an entire styling team to do my makeup. I pretended to be very understanding and nodded the whole time. However, the drinker's heart is not in the cup. Since the male lead is about to make an appearance, then this pot of meat will have to wait until both families are gathered before it can be served together. The next day, Mrs. Smith arrived on time with her eldest son. The bandage on Wendy's head could not be removed yet, lying on the hospital bed like a dried-up corpse. Sure enough, even with both eyes wide open, her Lucas brother. No one recognized that the person on the hospital bed was Wendy. They kept looking around and shouting, completely out of sync, Wendy, my Wendy, is that you? At this point, I finally understood. No wonder these two are the official couple in the original work. Grumpy and thoughtless make a perfect pair. No one could be more suited for each other than them. The fake young lady pretended to be delicate as she responded, It's me, Brother Lucas, it's Wendy. The voice was enough to evoke pity. After confirming repeatedly, Lucas firmly grasped the fake heiress's hand. Wendy really knows how to handle things. Holding Lucas's hand, she placed it on her own face. After gently brushing it, he took the opportunity to plant another kiss on the back of her hand. Lucas's face flushed slightly without him even realizing it. It seemed the fake heiress really had some tricks up her sleeve when it came to handling men. After a series of maneuvers, Wendy looked over with great satisfaction. It seemed like she was intentionally asserting her dominance over me. I looked into those eyes filled with female rivalry. I sneered inwardly, with such an appearance, where does all this confidence come from? Just as Lucas was about to fully retract his hand, silently activated the golden finger, repeat Wendy's hand greeting from earlier 1,000 times. The plot takes effect. Lucas tried to withdraw his hand, but it was suddenly pulled back by Wendy, rubbing against her face again and again. Showing no signs of stopping, Mom also felt a bit awkward and began to speak ill of Mrs. Smith. These two young people have such a good relationship. As a mother, I can't bear to see them separated again. Lucas's face turned even redder, muttering softly, Wendy, all right, both Mom and Auntie are watching. Just focus on recovering for now. I'll come see you again once you're better. However, the fake heiress continued to rub Lucas's hand back and forth against her face. Once, twice, 3 times, Lucas went from blushing to being at a loss. Wendy, that's enough. Because of the prolonged, repeated kissing, Lucas's hand was covered in sticky saliva. He felt a bit disgusted and started pulling back forcefully. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't break free from Wendy's clutches. Wendy. Mom sensed that things were starting to go wrong and quickly intervened. Is this how the Lincoln family teaches their daughter? Mrs. Smith furrowed her brows. He sounded quite displeased. Let go of my son right now. This is completely inappropriate. Lucas was growing impatient as well. He reached out with his other hand and kept pushing Wendy, but the two of them were like conjoined twins. They couldn't be separated no matter what. The fake daughter's movements became faster and faster. It went from gentle caressing to rubbing. The kiss turned into a bite. The movements became increasingly sticky. Lucas couldn't help but scream, Pervert, Mom, save me, I've encountered a pervert. Ah, Mrs. Smith was furious. She grabbed her handbag and hit Wendy on the head with it. You shameless woman, let go of my son right now. Seeing her daughter being bullied, the mother lost my mind all of a sudden, didn't care about high society etiquette at all, went straight to grab Mrs. Smith's hair and started pulling wildly. How dare you hit my daughter, I'll fight you to the death. On the hospital bed, Lucas's hand had already been rubbed raw. The vampire Wendy was still tirelessly repeating the biting motion. Behind them, the two noblewomen had somehow ended up tangled together again. Her hair was disheveled, and jewelry clattered to the floor. It was utterly humiliating. Outside the hospital room, onlookers who had rushed to the scene eagerly raised their phones. Hashtags like hashtag rich family meltdown, hashtag heiress hand licking obsession, hashtag wealthy women brawl quickly trended on social media. Views have exceeded 100 million. The comments section below is even more frenzied. It's really like a small knife cutting the butt, opening my eyes. Has the fight among the wealthy reached the point where we can watch it for free? Wendy has been gnawing on her claws for so long, and she's still rubbing them on her face. How disgusting. What high society noblewomen. When they turn hostile, they're just a bunch of high society shrews. If they keep pulling at each other, you'll be able to see the two aunties' underwear. Oh my, stop fighting already. I ran to the corner, quickly making way for the frontline fans and paparazzi at the entrance to get the best viewing spots. Mrs. Smith had her hairpiece snatched off by her mother. The mask of a respectable lady was completely torn away. Facing the cameras at the door, she struck a pose that said, "I'll even curse in the streets to get justice." The public's eyes are sharp. Everyone saw it clearly. It was Lincoln's daughter who seduced my son first. Our Smith family has always acted with reason. It was the Lincolns who offended first. If that's the case, we might as well call off this wedding. Upon hearing this madwoman slandering her, Mom rushed in front of the camera in a fluster and retorted loudly, "It was clearly you, this shrew, who struck first. And now you're turning the tables. Your Smith family is the most shameless of all. Whose daughter marries into your family ends up being ruined by you." Everyone, take a good look. Lucas was crying his eyes out, tears and snot streaming down his face. He shouted from behind, "Mom, stop fighting. Save me first. Save me, please. My hand is about to break. Stop it. All of you, stop now." Upon hearing her son scream, Mrs. Smith pushed aside the mother standing next to her. She immediately reached out to tear at Wendy's mouth. "You crazy lunatic, let go of your mouth. How dare you bite someone?" The mother saw her daughter being bullied. She didn't care about her image at all. She rushed forward and slapped Mrs. Smith. The four of them instantly started fighting. The scene was extremely chaotic. Of course, there was also me, who never shied away from stirring up trouble. The scene of four people tangled together repeated 1,000 times. When Dad received the message, he rushed over so fast it seemed like his car wheels were about to spark. I rushed over in a panic. I squeezed through the crowd to take a look. Mom was slapping her repeatedly without stopping. Mrs. Smith, her face swollen larger than a peach, was trying to pry open the fake heiress's mouth. Wendy drooled all over the bed, biting Lucas's hand. The four of them tangled into a messy heap. They even began to spin unconsciously, losing their balance, the magic of love spinning round and round. I miss you so much that my heart blooms day and night. The background music inexplicably started playing again. Wow, this iconic scene is driving the system crazy too. The live stream chat is going wild. Ha ha ha, is this the high society version of square dancing? Mr. Lin, you should join in too. This is a full family mobilization. The choreography is really good, very rhythmic. What's the name of the BGM? It fits the scene perfectly. Stop, all of you, stop, Dad roared, trying to pull apart the chaotic scene. However, as soon as he got close, he was inexplicably drawn into the fray. He became part of the spinning circle. The audience in the comments section is practically laughing their heads off. Not long after, Mr. Smith also arrived. High alert ahead, another victim has appeared. How could such an exciting scene come to an end so easily? I even brought a stool for myself. System. The King's Showdown with a 6-person team. Please repeat 1,000 times. Thus, a 6-person version of a large spinning top appeared in the center of the ward, continuously revolving, scattered jewelry, the uncle's ruined beer belly, torn hospital gowns, hands that were bitten red and swollen and covered in shiny saliva, as well as the two noblewomen's disheveled hair and scratched faces. The comments section is absolutely hilarious. Debut now. Let's call the group Spinning Tycoons. Help. I laughed so hard my neighbor called the police. This is the most explosive tycoon news of the year. No contest. Mr. Smith. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I transferring? The live stream's popularity lasted the entire day. The stock prices of Smith Co. and Lincoln Co. hit the daily limit up. Media's sharp commentary. When the economy is in decline, the wealthy are fiercely competing among themselves. What are you, the ordinary worker, still anxious about? Just like that, day turned to night, and night turned to day again. The staff on duty had already changed shifts 3 times. The 1,000th lap of the magic of love finally came to an end. The ward was filled with people lying haphazardly all over the place. Father held his waist, almost out of breath. Mr. Smith didn't let the benefits go to outsiders, and directly vomited on Mrs. Smith. Mother collapsed on the ground, completely unconscious, and Wendy was still biting Lucas's hand tightly. It's a complete madhouse. I looked at the mess in the room, feeling completely indifferent, and even a little amused. In the original story, the real daughter Susan was completely abandoned in this hospital. Her parents were ashamed of her and didn't even come to visit. Wendy not only inherited all the Lincoln family's assets but also successfully married into the Smith family, living the life of a wealthy lady, and now, I, the real daughter myself, am cracking melon seeds with my left hand, holding the phone in the right hand, said calmly, "Hello, is this 911? There's a serious fight happening here. Please come quickly." The Smith family issued an official statement that same day, terminating their partnership with the Lincoln family, and filed a lawsuit against the Lincolns in court, claiming an exorbitant $200 million in emotional damages and Lucas's rabies disability treatment fees. Dad's old back injury left a lasting problem, dragging his half-paralyzed body around. Not only did he have to deal with the Smith family's lawsuit, but he also had to handle the company's plummeting stock price due to negative news. And those opportunistic partners who abandoned ship to watch the show. Overnight, worry turned his hair white. Mother was frightened, and during the scuffle with Mrs. Smith, she lost her vitality. After returning home, she fell ill and remained bedridden, sighing and lamenting all day long. As for Wendy, she suffered severe physical and emotional trauma, and her face completely collapsed. She is sometimes lucid, sometimes confused. When lucid, she stares at me with eyes full of resentment. When confused, she clutches a pillow and bites it frantically. This home has transformed from a magnificent mansion into a nursing home devoid of any living presence, and I, Susan, am the true daughter who was supposedly switched at birth. I became the only person in the family with all limbs intact and a sound mind. The system set off fireworks in my mind. Mission accomplished. Host, you're amazing. What's next? The door to the original world has opened. Please choose whether to return. I decisively closed the passage for the time being. Although the Lincoln family could no longer rise again, but the family fortune had not yet been completely depleted. Since I'm going back, I don't want to be a beast of burden oppressed everywhere. Why not broaden your horizons and experience the impossible life right here? Standing on the top floor of Lincoln's villa, I opened a bottle of 1980 champagne. To Susan, thank you for letting me see the road you didn't get to finish. To myself, no matter what script I'm given, I'll always be the heroine who never gives up. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. The real daughter of the wealthiest family has been found, but she sees me, the housekeeper's daughter, as her biggest threat in competing for favor. So, when the fake heiress was gone, I became the fake heiress in her eyes. She mocked me in public. What right does a housekeeper's daughter have to attend a prestigious school? I am indeed the housekeeper's daughter, but my father earns millions a year and can afford the tuition. On the very first day the real heiress returned home, she harbored the greatest malice toward me. As soon as the real heiress arrived home, she looked at me with tearful eyes and said, "Is she the girl who has been by mom and dad's side all these years in my place?" The billionaire couple, still overjoyed by their daughter's return, failed to detect the sarcasm in Sarah's tone. Mrs. Thomas wiped away her tears and said, "This is Kathy, a very sensible girl. You two can become good friends, and if there's anything you don't understand after just returning, you can always ask her." But Sarah pouted, "Mom, since I'm back now, shouldn't the one who took my place leave? Do you want to favor the fake daughter? If that's the case, I'd rather not come back to this family." For a moment, the touching family reunion scene became somewhat awkward. Mr. Thomas opened his mouth hesitantly and said, "Fake daughter? What fake daughter?" Mrs. Thomas also looked at Sarah in confusion. "Honey, what are you talking about? When was there ever a fake daughter?" Sarah pointed at me. "Isn't she the fake heiress? You wouldn't treat her as your biological daughter just because you raised her for a few years, would you?" I stood by, feeling a bit helpless. "Miss Thomas, my biological father is right here." As I spoke, I pointed to the butler in a tuxedo standing nearby. Only then did Sarah exclaim in surprise, "So you're the butler's daughter? Perfect. Since your biological father is just a butler, and I'm back now, please face reality. I am mom and dad's daughter, no matter how long you've been in this house. Now that I'm back, the only young lady of this house can only be me." "What do you mean?" I've lost my biological parents, Maya, standing nearby. Looked at Mrs. Thomas and Mr. Thomas in confusion. Mr. Thomas looked somewhat displeased. Sarah, what nonsense are you talking? Kathy is Emmett's daughter. Since when has she become the young lady of our family? Your sister is right here. How could you be the only young lady in the house? Only then did Sarah notice the 11 or 12-year-old girl who had been standing to the side all along. After getting a clear look at the girl's face, Sarah covered her mouth and said, Mom, Dad, did you have another child to replace me because I went missing? Maya looked hurt at her parents and said, Mom, Dad, did you have me just to have a replacement for my sister? Both Mr. and Mrs. Thomas's expressions grew increasingly grim. Mrs. Thomas hugged her younger daughter and comforted her, saying, Maya, you are your own person, not a replacement for anyone. Don't think such nonsense. Sarah, what kind of nonsense have you been learning out there? Your sister was already 3 years old when you went missing. How could she be your replacement? Mr. Thomas couldn't help but say to Sarah. Sarah awkwardly touched her nose and said, I was very young when I got lost, so I don't remember having a sister at home. Mr. Thomas looked both helpless and skeptical as he replied, Sarah, you were 9 years old when you went missing. Are you sure you don't remember having a sister? Sarah's expression turned flustered for a moment, but she quickly held her head as if in excruciating pain. Dad, I really don't remember. When I was abducted, the traffickers beat and scolded me. Every time I try to recall my childhood, my head hurts terribly. Seeing her like this, both Mr. and Mrs. Thomas felt heartbroken. Mrs. Thomas quickly embraced her. Good child, don't force yourself to remember if you can't. Now that you're back, that's all that matters. You've suffered so much over the years, and we will make it up to you. Maya also stepped forward and said, Sister, it's such a relief that you're back now. All these years, Mom and Dad have been searching for you and never gave up on you. Sarah, nestled in Mrs. Thomas's arms, wiped her tears and said, Thank you, Mom and Dad. I always knew you wouldn't give up on me. It was only after the Thomas family comforted her for a while that Sarah finally stopped crying. She lifted her head from Mrs. Thomas's embrace and looked at me, her eyes still filled with resentment. Mom and Dad, but whenever I think about how much I've suffered all these years while Kathy, the housekeeper's daughter, has been living a comfortable life in our home, I feel so sad. My father's expression darkened at her words, but he still spoke politely. Miss Sarah, although my daughter has been living with the Thomas family all these years, I have been responsible for all her expenses. Moreover, she stayed with the Thomas family because Mr. and Mrs. Thomas wanted her to help tutor Miss Maya with her studies. The Thomas family nodded in unison and said to Sarah, Yes, Sarah, Kathy is a wonderful child, excellent in her studies and as a person. We asked her to stay at our home to help tutor your sister, but Sarah pouted and said, But isn't she just taking my place? I could tutor my sister too. Mom and Dad, you might not know this, but even though I've suffered a lot over the years, I've always been in the top 10 of my grade at school. I'm sure I could handle tutoring my sister's studies. Mom and Dad, just kick her out of the house. I don't want to see her. Seeing the hesitant expressions on Mrs. Thomas and Mr. Thomas's faces, Sarah simply stood up and said, I've suffered so much outside all these years. While you've been pampering the housekeeper's daughter at home, now that I'm back, you're still defending her. It seems you don't welcome me back, so I'll just leave. With that, she really started to walk out. Mrs. Thomas quickly got up to stop her. Silly child, how can you leave when you've just returned? We love you so much. How could we not welcome you back? Seeing the Thomas family's dilemma, I stepped forward directly. Mr. Thomas, Mrs. Thomas. Now that Miss Sarah is back and can tutor Miss Maya, it's only right that I move out. With that, I bowed to them. Thank you for your care all these years, sir and madam. I'll move out today. Seeing me voluntarily offer to leave, the Thomas family, though embarrassed, also breathed a sigh of relief. Mr. Thomas spoke somewhat apologetically. Kathy, Sarah has just been found, so she's feeling insecure. It's not that she's deliberately targeting you. Please don't take it to heart, don't worry. Mr. Thomas, I'm fine. With that, I turned and went to my room to pack my things. My father followed me in. As he helped me pack, he said, It's good that you're moving out. Over the years, with you living here, neither of us has had much time to spend with your mother. About today's matter, Dad knows you've been wronged. It's my position that has wronged you. If you're really unhappy, I'll resign from Thomas's house. I quickly shook my head and said, Dad, you're doing so well here. There's no need to resign over such a small matter. Besides, what's wrong with your position? You're one of the best senior housekeepers in the country. Others can't even get you to work for them. How could you possibly wrong me? Moving out of Thomas's house actually didn't affect me much, because my father has a high salary. He bought a villa near Thomas's house, so when I left Thomas's house, I turned around and entered my own home, where my mother was, making me feel more at ease than I did at Thomas's place. However, I didn't expect that even though I had moved out of Thomas's house, Sarah had no intention of letting me go. A week later, Sarah transferred to the prestigious school I was attending. On the way to school, the driver from the Thomas family picked me up as usual to take me to school together. Seeing me walk out of the villa, Sarah gave me an icy look. So they've been secretly keeping you outside all this time, Kathy, let me tell you. I am the true young lady of the Thomas family. Now that I'm back, you better drop all your little schemes. The Thomas family is mine. Don't even think about getting your hands on it. I just thought she was crazy. I originally planned to take a taxi to the company myself instead of riding in the Thomas family's car. But Sarah said again, forget it, just get in. Consider it me taking pity on you. I gritted my teeth, about to refuse, but the driver said, Kathy, just get in the car first. It's too late for you to get another taxi now. With no other choice, I got into the car and went to school with her. As soon as the car stopped at the school gate, I opened the door and got out. Not wanting to spend another moment with Sarah, I happened to run into my best friend Jenny and the others who had just arrived at school. Seeing me get out of the car, Jenny quickly waved at me. Kathy, come over quickly. I brought you your favorite chestnut cake. I smiled and walked toward her. But unexpectedly, Sarah stepped forward and blocked my way. I looked at her in confusion, only to see her smiling as she walked toward Jenny and the others. Classmates, let me introduce myself first. My name is Sarah, the long-lost biological daughter of the Chi family, the wealthiest family, and the true heiress of the Thomas family. Jenny and the others were somewhat puzzled by Sarah's words and could only awkwardly smile at her. Hello, classmate Sarah. Sarah nodded with satisfaction and glanced at me. You might not know this, but the classmate Kathy you just called is not the young lady of the Thomas family. She is just the daughter of a housekeeper, a fake heiress. If it weren't for the financial support from our Thomas family, she wouldn't have been able to attend a prestigious school like HY. You are all daughters of wealthy families, so don't be fooled by this fake heiress. Jenny and the others could barely maintain polite smiles at first, but their expressions darkened after hearing her subsequent words. Sarah thought their anger was due to discovering they had been deceived by me, so, with a smile, she said, now that I'm back, the Thomas family has already kicked her out. I'm just afraid you might be deceived, which is why I'm telling you right away. When did Kathy become the fake heiress of the Thomas family? Jenny spoke to her with some displeasure. Sarah was taken aback, seemingly not understanding why Jenny was speaking to her so harshly. But after a moment's thought, she still spoke up. I've heard that she's been living with the Thomas family all these years, with their driver taking her to and from school, even though she never says anything about it herself. Isn't she deliberately creating the illusion that she's the Thomas family's heiress? Everyone present was left speechless by Sarah's words. Jenny, who has always been straightforward, couldn't stand it when she heard Sarah talk about me like that. Classmate Sarah, Kathy has never created such an illusion. We all know her father is the butler of the Thomas family. As for you, you came here claiming to be the true heiress of the wealthy Thomas family. But who knows if it's true or not? Challenged about her identity, Sarah became visibly furious. Her face flushed red. And she pulled me over, pointing at me and demanding, tell them right now, am I the true heiress of the Thomas family or not? Jenny, Sarah is indeed the daughter that the Thomas family just found. Sarah lifted her chin proudly. See, even Kathy admitted it herself. I am the true heiress of the wealthiest family. Now you know who you should be friends with. Jenny and the others gave her a disdainful look and immediately walked over to my side. Jenny placed the chestnut cake in my hand. Let's get out of here. This person seems crazy. I hope it's not contagious. I was pulled by Jenny and the others toward the direction of the classroom. Sarah didn't expect that after proving her identity, everyone's attitude toward her would be like this. Furious, she stomped her feet and shouted in our direction, I am the daughter of the wealthiest person. Instead of trying to befriend me, you're playing with the daughter of a butler. You'll regret it. Her voice was so loud that everyone at the school entrance heard what she said. Jenny and I just felt embarrassed and quickened our pace to leave, while the others all looked at Sarah with strange expressions. However, Sarah probably didn't find those looks strange. Instead, she felt she had captured everyone's attention. Suddenly, she strutted proudly like a peacock spreading its tail, walking with an odd gait as she headed into the campus. Upon arriving at the classroom, Jenny couldn't help but complain, "That Sarah really is Thomas's daughter." I nodded. "She's nothing like the Thomas family. The Thomases are famously refined and polite. How could they have a daughter like that?" I shook my head without answering and just told her to get ready for class. Seeing that I didn't want to say more, Jenny didn't press further and quickly put the matter out of her mind. But I never expected that after the school bell rang, the homeroom teacher actually brought Sarah into the classroom. I just felt my vision go dark. Was there really no escaping this lunatic? The homeroom teacher briefly introduced Sarah as a new student who had just transferred to our class, then asked her to introduce herself. Sarah puffed out her chest as she walked up to the podium, a smug smile on her face as she looked at the students below. "Classmates, you may not have heard of me, but starting today, you need to remember that I, Sarah, am the true heiress of the Thomas family, the wealthiest family." As soon as these words were spoken, the classmates were stunned. Even those who had been looking down at their books couldn't help but raise their heads to look at her. The homeroom teacher was so shocked by this statement that she froze for a moment before finally coughing to remind her, "Sarah, a normal self-introduction will suffice." Sarah raised her hand and gestured downward in the teacher's direction, signaling for her not to interfere. "I was lost for 8 years before returning to the Thomas family. I don't blame you for not recognizing me, but from now on, you need to remember that I am the true daughter of the Thomas family, and Kathy is the fake one. Don't fawn over the wrong person." At this moment, both students and teachers were enraged by her words. Jenny slammed her book on the table. "Are you done with your crazy act or not?" Other students also expressed their dissatisfaction. "What do you mean by fawn over? Who are we supposed to fawn over?" The homeroom teacher also had a dark expression and glared fiercely at Sarah. "Sarah, everyone is an equal student at school, no matter whose daughter you are. Don't bring that kind of social behavior into the school." Hearing the complaints from the classmates and the teacher's scolding, Sarah looked somewhat embarrassed, but beyond the embarrassment, she cast a resentful glance at me. "You've all been bought off by Kathy, this fake rich girl." The classmates and the teacher simply thought she was unreasonable. The homeroom teacher wanted to have her step down directly, but Sarah stubbornly spoke up. "Who doesn't know that the main purpose of students at a prestigious school like HY is to build connections? Do you all think that Kathy, this fake heiress, is so favored in the Thomas family that you're helping her ostracize me? Let me tell you, my parents have always favored me. Now that I'm back, Kathy, the substitute, has been kicked out. You'd better think carefully about whether you want to continue being friends with her." By this point, the homeroom teacher was so angry that her face turned pale. She stepped onto the podium and rapped the table heavily with her finger. "Student Sarah, HY is a school. The student's task here is to study, not to build connections. Now, step down and find an empty seat to sit in." Sarah's eyes widened, and she looked at her homeroom teacher in disbelief. "I'm the richest man's daughter. How dare you treat me like this?" She thought that being the richest man's daughter would grant her special privileges, but she never considered that this was HY, where not only were the students' families wealthy and influential, but even the teachers' backgrounds were not simple. One richest man was not enough to make the school grovel. The homeroom teacher rolled her eyes impatiently. "I don't care whose daughter you are. Once you're at school, focus on studying and let your grades do the talking. Don't go around flaunting your family background for no reason." Hearing the teacher's words, Sarah, who had been feeling somewhat indignant, suddenly brightened up. She lifted her head with a hint of pride. "Don't worry, teacher, I'm not like those gilded rich kids at your school. At my previous school, my grades never dropped below the top 10 in my grade. As long as I'm here, I can definitely help raise our class's average score by a significant margin." Then, she turned to the students below the podium and said, "If there are any questions you don't understand in the future, feel free to ask me. Even though you were quite rude to me just now, I'm not a petty person. I'll help you all improve together." When Sarah said these words, she didn't notice the indescribable expression on the homeroom teacher's face at all. nor the contemptuous expressions on the faces of the students in the class. The reason HY is considered a prestigious school isn't just because its students and teachers are either wealthy or of high status, but because the quality of education here is truly exceptional. The students here have received elite education since childhood, excelling not only academically but also possessing at least one, if not multiple, special skills. Our school has won quite a few national-level awards. Now, hearing Sarah say this, it just sounds ridiculous. However, the homeroom teacher didn't want to say much to her either. With a dark expression, he pointed to an empty seat and said, "Go down and sit properly now. Pay attention in class." Sarah reluctantly took her seat, and the class finally began smoothly. Throughout the day, whenever Sarah tried to talk to anyone, either no one responded to her, or they would say sarcastically, "You're the daughter of the wealthiest person, I wouldn't dare speak to you." Sarah clearly felt that she was being excluded. She gave me a dissatisfied glare and then, looking aggrieved, laid her head on the desk. I found it utterly baffling. The reason she was being excluded was entirely because she had offended people with her words. What did that have to do with me? After school in the afternoon, Sarah had the driver take both of us to Thomas's house. As soon as we got out of the car, Sarah dragged me into the Thomas's living room and burst into tears in front of Mr. and Mrs. Thomas. "Mom, Dad, the ungrateful child you raised bullied me at school and got the other students to isolate me. I was bullied on my very first day at school." Hearing Sarah's accusation, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas looked at me with disbelief. Mr. Thomas asked uncertainly, "Sarah, are you sure you're not mistaken? Kathy is such a sensible and obedient child. How could she possibly bully you?" Upon hearing this, Sarah cried even harder. "She's just a manipulative bitch. She acts all sweet and well-behaved in front of you, but secretly she gangs up with classmates to bully others. I was bullied as soon as I got to school today, and it didn't even matter that I told them I was your daughter." Hearing their daughter cry so sadly, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas's expressions also turned grim. Mrs. Thomas coldly turned to look at me. "Kathy, is what Sarah said true?" I shook my head and said, "Mrs. Thomas, I didn't, and you know that bullying incidents are impossible at HY. Wealthy and influential parents are willing to send their children to HY, where the security facilities are excellent in every aspect, and bullying incidents are simply impossible." Hearing this, Mrs. Thomas nodded. "Indeed, there are no bullying incidents at HY. Does verbal bullying not count as bullying? Does emotional abuse not count as violence? Because of her, no one at school is willing to talk to me when I speak." Sarah continued to complain. "Kathy is the best at acting. She forms cliques at school, and just because I came back, she became jealous that I received your affection and was kicked out, so she united the other students to isolate me." Upon hearing this, both Mr. and Mrs. Thomas looked at me with displeasure. "Kathy, we've always thought of you as a sensible and good child. We've treated you well all these years. How could you treat our daughter like this?" Seeing her parents scold me, Sarah smugly raised an eyebrow at me. "Exactly, my parents adopted you, and all they got in return was an ungrateful person. They've given you their all, and yet you bully their daughter. You're such a scheming and shameless person." My father, who had been standing by the side, finally couldn't hold back any longer. "Sir, madam, I believe my daughter would never do such a thing. We can't just take Miss Sarah's word for it." My father shielded me behind him and, facing the anger of the master's family, calmly and confidently suggested, "The best way to find out the truth is to investigate at the school." Hearing my father say this, Sarah spoke up in dissatisfaction. "Are you implying that I'm lying? You're just a lowly butler. What right do you have to question my words? Don't think I won't fire you if I get upset." "Sarah, don't speak to Butler Emmett like that, Mr. Thomas said with some displeasure. "Dad, her daughter bullied me, and instead of apologizing, he's taking her side. You all claim to love me, yet you believe the lies of this father and daughter. If you don't trust me so much, why did you bring me back? Just so I could come back and be bullied?" Sarah lay on the sofa, crying bitterly. "I have no parents outside, and when I get bullied, I have to endure it all by myself. I thought I had finally found my birth parents and someone to stand up for me, but I never expected to still be bullied." Whenever she talked about the hardships she had endured before, the Thomas couple felt heartbroken. Mrs. Thomas hugged her even more tenderly. "My dear child, how could we let anyone bully you? Don't cry. It breaks my heart the most to see you being bullied. I'll make sure to stand up for you right now." Hearing Mrs. Thomas's words, Sarah finally looked up. Tears still on her face. Then I want you to kick her out of HY. I don't want to see her again. Hearing her demand, both Mr. and Mrs. Thomas were stunned on the spot. This HY isn't something our family owns. We can't just fire anyone we want, Mr. Thomas said helplessly. But Sarah pouted and said, HY's tuition is hundreds of thousands a year. If it weren't for your financial support, could she afford such a good school? Just stop funding her, and that'll do, right? What do you mean we funded it, Mrs. Thomas said somewhat awkwardly. Sarah, don't talk nonsense. Kathy's tuition was paid by her own family, not by us. Sarah clearly didn't believe this. You're still trying to fool me. Her father is just a butler. How could he possibly afford to send his daughter to a prestigious school? Hearing this, my father calmly replied, Miss Sarah, my annual salary is $8 million, and I have other investment income as well. Sending my daughter to a prestigious school is not a problem for me. Upon hearing this, Sarah's eyes widened, and tears welled up in them the next second. Do you all like Kathy that much, to pay her father such a high salary just for her? Mr. Thomas was a little helpless. Emmett is a senior housekeeper, one of the best in the country. This is his normal salary, and it has nothing to do with Kathy. I don't believe it. How can a housekeeper earn such a high salary? You're just taking advantage of me not being home all these years and deceiving me. Sarah continued to cry and fuss, even demanding that Mr. Thomas fire my dad. It was at this moment that Mrs. Thomas's phone rang. She didn't want to answer at first, but then she realized it was the homeroom teacher calling, so she had to pick up. As soon as she answered the phone, she heard the homeroom teacher on the other end saying sternly, Mrs. Thomas, although you and your husband are busy with work, you still need to pay attention to Sarah's education. As soon as she arrived at school, she claimed to be the real daughter of the wealthiest family and demanded that her classmates flatter her, forbidding them from being friends with Kathy. She also said that attending HY school is all about building connections. I know you just found this child, so it's natural to spoil her a bit. But her words have caused a negative impact at school and have already provoked resentment among her classmates, which also affects her ability to make friends at school. Now, none of the classmates are willing to engage with her. I think it's an issue with her family education. You still need to educate Sarah more, otherwise, she won't be able to integrate into the class. With every word the homeroom teacher spoke, Mrs. Thomas's expression grew more and more awkward. Sarah's face was pale, and she also looked somewhat insulted and defiant. Mrs. Thomas repeatedly promised the homeroom teacher that she would properly educate Sarah before hanging up the phone. Sarah, so everything you said before was a lie, wasn't it? Mrs. Thomas said in a heavy tone after hanging up the phone. Sarah pouted. Mom, I didn't lie. The homeroom teacher was bribed by Kathy and is deliberately targeting me. During class today, the teacher even led the way in bullying me. You're saying Kathy bribed the homeroom teacher? Yes, it's because you've been spoiling Kathy all these years that she's been treated like the Thomas family's precious daughter at school. The homeroom teacher bullies me just to curry favor with Kathy. She grew more and more upset as she spoke, even wanting to throw herself into Mrs. Thomas's arms to act spoiled. Mom, you have to go to the school and teach the homeroom teacher a lesson. Make her understand that I'm the most cherished daughter in our Thomas family. But this time, Mrs. Thomas didn't catch her daughter as she acted spoiled. Instead, she dodged. Mr. Thomas couldn't take it anymore and slammed the table hard. Sarah, do you even realize what nonsense you're spouting? Which teacher at the school has a status that requires them to curry favor with our Thomas family? How could they possibly be bribed? Sarah was startled by the voice, and even her crying stopped. He looked at his father in disbelief and said, Dad, our family is the wealthiest. Which teacher or classmate at school wouldn't try to curry favor with us? If Kathy hadn't been living with us all along, she wouldn't have had so many friends at school. Mr. Thomas was quite angered by Sarah's words. He patted his chest and then spoke earnestly to Sarah. Sarah, it's true that our family is the wealthiest now, but being the wealthiest doesn't mean everything. The teachers and students at HY all have extraordinary backgrounds. No one has to curry favor with us just because we're the wealthiest. Moreover, school is a place for learning. You can't think you're superior just because our family is the wealthiest. Kathy has many friends at school because she is excellent herself. You should learn from her, not deliberately slander her. Hearing Mr. Thomas say this, Sarah's expression turned very unpleasant. She bit her lip. looking at her father and mother with a heartbroken expression. After all that, you're just biased towards Kathy. If I had known my return was superfluous, I wouldn't have come back. With that, she ran back to her room, crying, and slammed the door shut. Mrs. Thomas wanted to go up and comfort her, but Mr. Thomas held her back. Let her reflect on her own. Spoiling her will only ruin her sooner or later. After this incident, my father also felt that staying with the Thomas family would only bring me more trouble, so he immediately resigned to Mr. Thomas on the spot. Naturally, Mr. Thomas was reluctant to let my father go, but my father said, "Sir, Miss Sarah holds a great deal of hostility toward our Kathy. If I continue to stay here, it will affect both Miss Sarah and our Kathy." Mr. Thomas knew he was in the wrong, as I had been the one wronged in these recent incidents. In the end, he had no choice but to agree to my father's resignation, though he still hoped he would finish out the month. Naturally, my father had no objections and said he would do his best to serve everyone in the Thomas family during this final period. Upon hearing that my father was leaving, Maya was very upset and cried, begging him not to go. After all, she had practically grown up under my father's care and had received more attention from him than from Mr. and Mrs. Thomas. After learning the reason for my father's departure, it is said that she went and had a big argument with Sarah. However, the young girl didn't have a knack for arguing. When she accused Sarah of kicking me out as soon as she got home, and now causing the housekeeper to resign as well, Sarah merely scoffed, "You're just jealous that I'm more favored by mom and dad than you are. They're just two servants, and you're so reluctant to let them go. Have you been around servants for so long that you become a low-class person yourself? I am your own sister, and instead of standing by my side, you're taking the side of two servants. I think you're just a fool. Good thing I'm back now, otherwise, wouldn't all the Thomas family's assets have been given away by you, you fool?" Maya was so angered by her constant belittling that she burst into tears. Yet she couldn't bring herself to say anything harsher to this sister who had just been found. She could only retreat to her room silently, where she cried in sorrow. The next day, I didn't take Thomas's family car to school again. I thought that since I had been avoiding her everywhere, Sarah probably wouldn't bother me again, but I didn't expect that as soon as I arrived at the classroom, Sarah let out a sarcastic sneer. Then she stood up from her seat. "Classmates, yesterday you didn't believe that I was the most favored daughter of the Thomas family, and you all went to curry favor with Kathy, the housekeeper's daughter. But do you know, just because I went home and acted a little spoiled, Kathy's father has already been fired by our family. It was only after his father pleaded desperately that my father agreed to let him finish this month before leaving." Hearing Sarah's distorted words, I was so angry I almost ground my teeth. And I stepped forward furiously to confront her. "Sarah, can you stop talking nonsense? It was you who went home and slandered me, which is why my dad took the initiative to resign." Sarah just gave me a disdainful glance. "What do you mean, took the initiative to resign? Our family paid your dad such a high salary. How could he possibly be willing to resign? He was just trying to save face in front of you." Just as I was about to step forward to continue arguing with her, most of the classmates in the class rushed over and surrounded me in a circle. I was surrounded by my classmates, exchanging glances with Sarah across the crowd. Sarah wore a smug expression and said, "See, without our Thomas family, you're just waiting to be cornered by your classmates." But the next second, the classmates clamored eagerly, "Kathy, is your dad really resigning? Come to our house. My parents have been wanting to poach your dad for ages, they just never had the chance. Come to our house instead. We've always wanted to hire your dad as our butler." "No, she has to come to our house. Kathy is my best friend, so she's definitely coming to our place." Jenny wrapped her arm around me and said with a grin. Some classmates retorted discontentedly, "Fair competition, Jenny, how can you pull strings? Besides, we have a good relationship with Kathy too. You can't be so sneaky." Watching my classmates compete for my dad's attention, they became even more enthusiastic toward me. Sarah's expression grew increasingly unpleasant. He finally couldn't hold back and shouted, "Are you all insane? I'm the daughter of the wealthiest family, and instead of trying to win me over, you're befriending the housekeeper's daughter." Everyone turned to look at Sarah as if she were a madwoman. "You're the one who's insane. What's wrong with the housekeeper's daughter? Is the housekeeper's daughter not a person? Besides, do you know about Mr. Emmett, the housekeeper's capabilities? He's one of the top housekeepers in the country. Not only taking care of all the family members' daily needs and the children's education but even helping with the family's finances, a housekeeper like him. Who wouldn't want to hire him? It's only your Thomas family that doesn't know how to appreciate him. So they pulled me aside and continued trying to persuade me to have my father work as a butler at their homes. I waved my hand helplessly and said, I never interfere with my father's work. When he resigns, why don't you contact him directly and try your luck? After I said that, no one gave me a hard time. Instead, they all took out their phones to inform their parents, telling them to prepare to hire my father. Sarah was so angry at the scene that her face turned bright red. In the end, she could only stomp back to her seat, muttering, and they call themselves students of a prestigious school. They don't even understand the basics of leveraging resources. Instead of making use of my excellent connections, they're fighting over a butler. I think they're just hothouse flowers, completely spoiled. People were already used to Sarah's language and simply gave her a cold glance before choosing to ignore her. After this incident, Sarah became even less popular at school. She didn't even have a desk mate anymore, and no one would come within 5 steps of her when she walked down the road. Regarding this, she believed that I had instructed everyone to act this way, so the look she gave me became even more resentful. In a few days, it will be my 18th birthday, and my parents want to make it a big celebration. They want me to invite my classmates to our family villa for the birthday party. The party will be entirely arranged by my dad. Upon receiving my invitation, my classmates were all very happy and said they would definitely come. It's great that Kathy has your dad. I heard that the banquets he arranges almost always satisfy everyone. I smiled and nodded. He always learns about each guest's preferences in advance. Only Sarah, standing nearby, looked at me with a hint of disdain, as if she had seen through something. Her gaze made me uncomfortable, but since she didn't provoke me, I didn't feel it was appropriate to say anything. Until the day of the banquet, all the classmates had arrived, and just as I was about to lead everyone into the villa, Sarah stepped forward. Kathy, you said this is your family's villa. She smiled with a mocking expression. I just felt bewildered. Of course, it's our family's villa. Hearing my answer, the smile on her face grew even brighter. Since you say it's your family's villa, why don't you try to open the villa's door? I thought she was crazy. Was opening a door such a big deal? So, in front of her, I entered the password and opened the villa gate. Sarah looked genuinely shocked when she saw that I had actually opened the door. She muttered under her breath, how is this possible? I specifically asked my parents to change all the passwords for our villas. How could you still open this door? At that moment, I couldn't hold back any longer. Sarah, I told you this is our family's villa. Everyone is here today to celebrate my birthday. If you don't want to be part of it, you can leave. Sarah rolled her eyes at me and said, you're such a vain woman, using other people's things to show off. Of course, I'm going to stay and expose you. Although I was extremely angry, I didn't want to argue with her because it was my birthday, and I had invited my classmates to have a good time. Just as I was leading my classmates into the villa, my mom happened to come out to greet us. Upon seeing my mom, all my classmates politely said hello. Only Sarah stepped forward and looked my mom up and down. So you're Kathy's mom. You must also be the Thomas family's housekeeper, right? Are you specifically responsible for cleaning this villa? No wonder Kathy could get in. It turns out she has a thief in the family like you. My mom was a bit baffled by what she said. Although she was angry, she kept her composure and replied, considering the girl was just a child, this classmate, I am Kathy's mother, but I am not anyone's nanny. Welcome, everyone, to Kathy's birthday party. Please come in. With that, she invited everyone into the villa. The party my dad prepared was beautiful. The banquet hall wasn't large, but it was exceptionally exquisite. The meals are all specially tailored according to the students' preferences, so everyone was very happy to see such a comfortable banquet, and they tacitly ignored Sarah. Everyone presented me with birthday gifts in unison. My father also took the opportunity to bring out a huge birthday cake in front of me. The cake was handmade by my dad and was as beautiful as a sculpture. Everyone was shocked by my dad's craftsmanship, and some classmates had already taken out their cameras and started taking pictures. Only Sarah came up to my dad and said to him in a condescending tone, Butler Emmett, you haven't resigned yet. Instead of serving your master at our house, what are you doing here? My dad's expression remained unchanged, and he simply said, Miss Sarah, today is my daughter's birthday. I've already asked Mr. Thomas for leave, so this is my private time. Sarah pouted. Private time? Private time. Does that mean you can use our villa and our resources to throw a birthday party for your daughter to show off? My father was taken aback by her words, then frowned and said, Miss Sarah, this is our family's own villa. Just a second later, 2 police officers entered the villa. They came in fully armed and shouted, Who called the police? Me, officer, I called the police. Sarah immediately raised her hand and said, The police immediately stepped forward to shield Sarah and asked, Who is trespassing? Sarah pointed at all of us and said, Officer, they're the ones who broke into my villa without my permission to throw a birthday party. The police officer frowned and looked at the 2 parents present, my dad and my mom. Did you force your way into her villa? My parents quickly denied it. Officer, this is our own villa. Bullshit, you're just our housekeeper and nanny. Where would you get the money to buy a villa? You just found out my family was easy to fool and secretly occupied our villa. Now that I'm back, our Thomas family will never be bled dry by you again. My mother was quite upset by her words but still tried to reason with her. Classmate, this villa has always been ours. My husband works as a butler for your family. But we have never taken advantage of you. If you don't believe me, go ask your parents. This villa is indeed our own. But Sarah rolled her eyes. My parents are the most soft-hearted. Of course, they'd say the villa is yours to save your face. But I'm not so easily fooled. You must give me an explanation today. My mother wanted to continue explaining, but my father stopped her and didn't bother arguing with Sarah. Dad went straight back to the room and brought out the villa's property deed, along with his ID card, proving that the villa indeed belonged to our family. After checking the documents, the police confirmed that the villa was indeed our own. The police then turned to Sarah and said, Miss, do you know that making a false police report is illegal? You'll have to come with us to the police station. Sarah hadn't expected that my father could produce the property deed. That's impossible. This property deed must be fake. Officer, don't let this family of thieves fool you. Please check it. This property deed has to be fake. She lunged at my father with claws bared, trying to snatch the property deed, but was stopped by the police. We can tell whether the property deed is real or fake. You'd better come with us now, and contact your parents as well. Whether Sarah was willing or not, she was forcibly taken away by the police. Such an unpleasant incident happened right at the start of the banquet, and some classmates came over to comfort me with sympathy. Just when everyone thought the banquet couldn't go on, my dad came up with a new activity plan, instantly lifting the spirits of the classmates. My birthday party continued, and everyone quickly put the earlier unpleasantness behind them. As for Sarah, it's said that Mr. and Mrs. Thomas personally went to the police station to bring her back, after learning that she had caused a scene at my birthday party and even insisted that our family's villa was theirs. The Thomas couple were very disappointed with Sarah, and even the regained affection they had for her diminished. She also clearly sensed the change in her parents' attitude toward her and no longer dared to act willfully at home. In order to regain her parents' favor, she repeatedly assured Mr. and Mrs. Thomas that she would achieve excellent results in the monthly exam to bring honor to the Thomas family. The Thomas couple were pleased to see her behaving more obediently and to hear her promise of good grades, and promised her that as long as she could achieve good grades, he would give her a big gift. Everyone knew that this big gift was likely shares in the Thomas family's company, so Sarah put a lot of effort into this monthly exam and was determined to secure the top position. Since the villa alarm incident, she had basically become invisible in the class. She herself felt embarrassed and didn't dare to say anything more to make everyone flatter her as the daughter of the wealthiest family. Plus, recently, all her energy has been focused on studying, so everyone thought she had realized her mistake and was ready to correct it. But no one expected that on the day the monthly exam results came out, Sarah suddenly came to my desk and looked down at me condescendingly. Kathy, you managed to trick your way through all those previous incidents. But this time it's different. This midterm exam is about real ability. When I get first place in the grade, my dad will give me shares in the Thomas family, then I'll be on a whole different level from all of you. As she spoke, she let out a smug laugh. You bunch of spoiled fools, just keep hanging out with a housekeeper's daughter like Kathy. Hearing her words now involved the whole class. Everyone turned to look at her. But the looks directed at her weren't angry. They were filled with confusion and pity. After all, it's quite pitiable to go mad at such a young age. Just as she was about to continue with her harsh words, the homeroom teacher entered the classroom with a smile. Her face was glowing with a cheerful smile. Class, the top 3 students in the grade for this monthly exam are all from our class. And our class's average score is also the highest in the grade. To celebrate your excellent results, you can have free time during tonight's self-study session. Hearing the homeroom teacher's words, the students in the class were overjoyed, and some had already started clapping excitedly. Sarah was even more excited and stood up directly. Teacher, please announce who got first place in the grade. Upon seeing Sarah, the homeroom teacher showed a moment of displeasure but still nodded and said, now I will announce the names of the top 3 students in the grade. The third place goes to Jenny. Jenny stood up to receive the applause from the whole class. Sarah glanced at her disdainfully and let out a scoff. The second place goes to our class monitor, Frank. The class monitor also stood up to receive applause from the entire class. Sarah reluctantly clapped a couple of times. Her eyes were fixed on the homeroom teacher, sparkling with excitement. The homeroom teacher felt a bit uncomfortable under her gaze and cleared his throat before continuing. First place, once again, goes to our classmate Kathy. Let's give her a round of applause. The whole class clapped and cheered for me. Only Sarah suddenly slammed the table and exclaimed, this can't be. How could Kathy be first place? My grades are so good. How could I not even make the top 3? There must be something wrong. The homeroom teacher looked at her speechlessly. Kathy, your foundation is already weaker than everyone else's. Your test score this time was the lowest in the class, dragging down our class's average by a full 0.5 points. I'm not saying anything because you just transferred and couldn't keep up, so why do you still have an opinion? Hearing the homeroom teacher's words, Sarah angrily shouted, impossible. There must be something wrong with these scores. I'm reporting that someone must have falsified the monthly exam results. How could I possibly score lower than a bunch of spoiled rich kids? Sarah made a huge scene about it, disregarding the homeroom teacher's dissuasion and directly barging into the principal's office. She demanded that the principal give her an explanation, or she would make sure the school couldn't operate. Faced with Sarah's threat, the principal found it laughable and promptly called Sarah's parents. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas arrived at the school together, and upon hearing what had happened, both of their faces showed expressions of embarrassment. Mr. Thomas repeatedly apologized to the principal. Mrs. Thomas patiently explained to Sarah that the school would not make a mistake with the grades, but Sarah just wouldn't listen, firmly believing that as a stubborn Rose, she couldn't possibly fail an exam against a bunch of spoiled rich kids. The principal was so angry he laughed, and immediately had someone bring Sarah's test paper for her to see her score. After getting the test paper, Sarah found it covered in bright red crosses. She couldn't believe it. How is this possible? How could I get so many wrong? The teacher said helplessly, your foundation is already weak, yet you always try to show off by using advanced problem-solving methods. The approach is correct, but the process is all wrong, and the results are all wrong. How could you possibly score any points? Sarah looked at the ridiculously low scores on her test paper, her face showing an expression of despair, but she still raised her finger and pointed at me. What about her? Why does Kathy get to be first? The principal rolled his eyes. Kathy has always been the top student in her grade. She's our school's ace. What's the problem with her being first? Sarah took a step back in frustration, her shoulders slumping completely. She cautiously glanced at her parents, only to find that their eyes held not just disappointment, but also a hint of disgust. She walked toward her parents timidly and said, Mom, Dad, I was wrong. I just slipped up this time. I'll definitely do better next time. Mrs. Thomas sighed in disappointment. Whether you do well or not isn't the point. What matters is that a person shouldn't keep making the same mistakes without learning from them. Mr. Thomas also turned his head away, unwilling to look at her. Mom, Dad, I really know I was wrong. I did all this because I've suffered so much outside and was afraid others would take your affection away from me. I was just insecure. And I promise I won't do it again, she said tearfully. At that moment, my father, who had been standing behind Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, spoke up. Sir, Madam, I've uncovered something about Miss Sarah that I think you should see. As he spoke, he took out his phone and handed it to Mr. Thomas. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas looked up at Sarah with resentment in their eyes after seeing the content on the phone. So you're not our daughter at all. It turned out that I had previously mentioned to my dad that Sarah didn't resemble the Thomas family in either appearance or personality. My dad also felt that Sarah's personality had changed too much compared to before she went missing, but the DNA test results at the time showed that Sarah was indeed the Thomas family's daughter. However, my always cautious father, during his final period working at Thomas's house, still chose to investigate Sarah's past. In the end, he surprisingly discovered that Sarah was actually the daughter of the family that had bought Thomas's real daughter. When the DNA comparison was initially done, their family deliberately used the real Sarah's sample to replace hers, so she was taken back to the Thomas family, while the real Sarah was still suffering in the adoptive family. My dad had just learned the truth when he was called to the school along with the Thomases. Now the truth is out, the Thomases did not hesitate to call the police. The police took Sarah away and rescued the real Sarah. This time, the biological sample was personally collected by Mr. and Mrs. Thomas to ensure no further mistakes. After returning home, the real Sarah seemed quite cautious, clearly showing signs of having been bullied for years in her foster family. Looking utterly pitiful, the thought of the fake daughter they had cherished for so long made Mr. and Mrs. Thomas even more heartbroken, and they treated the real Sarah even better. Originally, Mr. Thomas had thought that the fake Sarah had been caught and had left the Thomas household. He wanted my father to stay on as the butler, but my father refused. After my father left Thomas's house, as expected, all the parents of my classmates came forward, wanting to hire my father, but my father turned them all down. I asked him why he didn't go, since the salary and benefits offered by my classmates' families were quite good. My dad, however, smiled and said, "After working as a butler for so many years, it's time for me to take a break. Now, a high-end butler training institution has offered me a teaching position with a salary and even the opportunity for technical equity. From now on, I'll have more time to spend with you and your mom." I was also very happy to know that my dad had found a more suitable opportunity. Although some of my classmates might be a little unhappy, it won't affect the bond between us. After all, school is a place to gain knowledge. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.